Hello. It's time to serve up the next course of flavor profiles. We're calling it Family Meal. It's where we take the time to share the table with our friends in the gathering, talk about what sparks the joy in their life. So, welcome to the table. It's a place where we can unwind before the doors open on our next post, our next stream, or the next convention where we gather once again. It's a place to share what we love together. When I think about the gathering, I think of the relationships made through cardboard and travel, late night texting across time zones, and real delivery to the point of similar feeds. We should all have those people in our life. So joining me tonight as the first guest is Drew, aka Show and Tell to You. He is a photographer, a poet, and someone who puts time into showcasing others in the gathering. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I mean, this is just an extension of what we do pretty much every day, which is text back and forth, send each other memes, and repeat the process while 3 hours apart.
Yeah, pretty much opposite sides of the country. I'm on West Coast California, and you are East Coast, all the way, all the way over there.
Yeah, it's a bit long. And the only time we get to really see each other is usually at the cons. And that's sort of the funny thing about magic is I was talking with some of the other people in the community who live out here on the East Coast, some of whom are right up the road from me. And the only time we ever get together is in other states, in other parts of the country.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that seems to be sort of a commonality. But no matter what, we all keep coming back for more, which is great. And next, we'll be seeing you in Atlanta, I believe. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out first and put you right on the spot.
Yes, I will be going to Atlanta. Thank you, Daniel Kane. Excuse me. Think about Dr. Crane from Batman. No, he actually thanking him, but also thanking you in a lot of ways because he gave away his extra badge and you pinged my name as an entry. I had to laugh because I got the initial thing and I was like, oh, that's very kind of him. But like, I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people, whatever. And then, it was yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was working on my office and like I came back to my phone and I had all these notifications like, what is going on? And I had one and I was like, oh, sweet, got a free match. I guess we're gonna make this thing work. So
I wish I could take credit for being a kingmaker or something like in a game of EDH, but anyone who's played me in Commander knows I do not have that power. But let's just dive right in. One thing I always love learning about others is what's your foundation? What brought you to Magic and what got you started? What's your origin story? Since we're on Marvel, where'd you get your superpowers?
it's funny because a lot like Batman, I had very close people taken away from me. No, that's a very dramatic. So I'm gonna
I
date
was like,
myself.
this just got very dark all of
It
a
got very
sudden.
dark. No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that dark. So I'm gonna age myself. I'm gonna date myself. When I was in junior high, which was 1998, so 28 years ago, um, my my school, the lunch period, there was two different lunch periods. There was like fifth period and sixth period. I think we're both two lunches. So like sometimes you could be in fifth period lunch or sometimes you could be in sixth period lunch. And I think it was seventh grade, the second semester, I was in sixth period lunch, and like all of my like really close friends were in fifth period lunch. So I was like, oh well, that's a bummer. Like why what are you gonna do? Um, so I I had friends in the sixth period lunch that I knew, but we weren't super, super close, but like these were gonna people I was gonna hang out now. And they all played Magic. And I was just kind of like, oh, like what's Magic? And I kind of knew of the game. At the time I played the Star Wars customizable card game.
Hmm.
So I had an idea of what like a that type of game was, but I never actually looked into Magic very closely. But by just sheer this is what we do, I started playing, and I always think about like just the novelty of like I wanted to build a black green deck, but I didn't own enough forests, so I had to make a black blue deck. just like not having access to cards whenever I want them, um, was just like a thing. I was really into Tree Folk. Redwood Tree Folk is kind of like my OG homie. That was like one of my favorite cards. But any like Blanchwood Tree Folk, any of the Tree Folks, I
Hmm.
don't know what it was about them. Um, and yeah, started playing, and then I basically played from junior high through middle of high school, and I took a year off, and I picked it back up again my senior year, and I played from senior year through my first 2 years of college. And then that was, let's see, I stopped in college right when Lorwyn came out, the first Lorwyn, and then got to experience Ravnica for the first time and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of missed out on Planeswalkers. Lauren had Planeswalkers, but that was kind of I was kind of at it at the time, and really didn't play again until, oh gosh, so when Dominaria came out, it was
Hmm.
2018. My friend Jimmy, probably my oldest friend, I've known him since we were in kindergarten together. He started talking about how people at his work would draft, and he kind of got into. He's like, "Oh, let's play modern and let's play standard," and I'm just like, about the modern deck, and he's like, "No, we'll play standard now." So I bought the standard deck, and I was just like, "God, these rotating formats are killing my wallet." And then as I was looking through, I discovered, I was like, "What does EDH stand for?
Hmm.
What is this?" And I found Commander, and I think for me, as someone who was your prototypical kitchen table, 60 card deck, just whatever mishmash of cards you had available. It spoke to me in a way that I never really felt with the game. Like I always like playing, but that commander format kind of gave me the just enough structure to build interesting decks, but and enough freedom to be like, oh yeah, you can put cards in from almost any era of the game. And in a lot of cases, the really old cards, which I had boxes of, were um, useful. I always joke. I started playing, it was during the Urza's block. I didn't buy a lot of Urzas though. Like during the time, I bought a lot of. I bought a lot of Arcadian Masks. I bought a lot of Nemesis. Remember Nemesis? Bought a
Hmm.
lot of. I bought a lot of Prophecy. I mean, these are sets that people you look back now. Um, Prophecy. Famously though has Ristic Study. Right, that's
Hmm.
the kind of the one card. But I was really I thought the avatars are really cool. Avatar of Woe is still one of my favorite cards.
Hmm.
Um, but, Nemesis is, I don't know, it's like not one of those sets, like, man, there's nothing going on in that set. Very nostalgic though. But yeah, so I came back to Magic during Dominaria with my friend, and I started poking around on the time Twitter. And I don't even remember how I started, like, I think like a lot of people, when I just tried to get into Commander, I found game nights,
Hmm.
and I started, I was obsessed. I watched like all the game nights. Like, these are so cool. Like, what is this? And then you kind of find out, oh, there's a guy, there's people online, and you kind of just start following people, and you kind of start um, interacting and tweeting and kind of messaging. And, I just um, managed to kind of find some people online who are kind of, I always talk about, Veggie and I met on Twitter, like before Veggie was like, I always knew Veggie was going to be big. Um, don't know I said that. Now you can tell.
He's gonna
Uh,
see that you said that.
but I there was a so right when COVID started, I had started the idea of a small show of my own called Show and Tell, because I was trying to think of a older Magic card that kind of had a cool association. I like the art on the Urza's Show and Tell. Very bad for search engine optimization. Let me tell you, search Show and Tell was like, you're getting buried for search engines. But um, yeah, I just have always been interested in like the inside baseball stuff of like streamers and content creators and all that kind of stuff. So I was just like, well, maybe I had done back in near the end of college a different show. Here's a deep cut for I'm talking about. I had a show called Artists Shooting Artists, and I would sit down with traditional artists. So like my buddy's like a comic book artist, like musicians, um, guitarists, all that kind of stuff. But then I also would like seek out people who maybe you wouldn't like consider artists just off the top of your head. So I sat down with a brewmaster and we talked about brewing beers, and I sat down with a dietitian and talking about the art of like creating a healthy menu for the week. And I sat down with a my buddy, the chiropractor, and we talked about the art of like adjustments and like physical health. So that was uh that was a pretty fun experience. Kind of cut my teeth on hosting something and editing. And my buddy at the time for Best Buy, he worked with me. Shout out to Stephen Fink, also a Magic player. Um, but yeah, this was just kind of evolved from. Do you remember there was the Greenlight project? Something called the Greenlight
Yeah.
Fund? That was kind of like I was working up this pitch to do the show. Like, well, maybe I'll just submit something and like the cost of entry for what I was looking to do was gonna be very small. So I said, well, maybe it's like 1% of the money they have available. Maybe they'll take pity or something. And then that all just disappeared. And I just said, screw it. As a photographer, I had the gear already, like most
Hmm.
of the gear to kind of get started anyway. So I just dove right in and started filming stuff. And then, and with COVID, like the opportunity to talk to people over the internet was there. And then, I'll never forget the first like post lockdown event was a Command Fest Vegas.
Hmm.
And it was just this kind of little thing that Channel Fireball put on. And I I still don't know how I got up the like guts to go because like I had known, like I said, I knew Veggie via
Hmm.
Twitter and he was going, but then like I kind of, people I'd watched or seen or people who I thought were, interesting to talk to or interesting like with their content. So my friend who is not into magic at all, but likes to go to Vegas, he was just like, "Yeah, I'll go with you." And like, I can work from the room. He's like a software programmer. He's like, "Yeah, if you are gonna go out with people, let me know. If not, we'll just go gamble or eat or whatever." So I just went by myself and just kind of wandered around and had my camera and I took pictures. I got to meet, like I said, I met Veggie for the first time there in person. It was really cool. I
Hmm.
met the one James,
Hmm.
he's super nice, and kind of became friends with him, Lord Kaiju, and just kind of just like met people and took photos. And like it was weird because I think given that it was Vegas and it was like kind of the first post lockdown, like a ton of people, like the professor was there,
Hmm.
Shiva was there. I met Zebex for the first time, who I've collaborated a lot with on
Hmm.
photography. Talia Vest, Zabertis, Air Bubbles. I think I met Inkling Customs for the first time there. And it was just like all these
Everybody
people.
from the gathering.
Yeah, and this is even before I like knew anybody. And like now, it's like a lot of those people I would consider some of them friends, some of them
Hmm.
acquaintances, and some people like who probably know who. It's just like a weird thing to like see that sort of develop, and and that kind of went on. Like I kind of went to there was Magic 30, and then MagicCon. I think the first MagicCon Vegas, where I kind of go
Hmm.
and kind of talk to some people, but still wasn't kind of finding my own way. And it really wasn't. I think until the I don't know if it was the first MagicCon Vegas or the second one, but whatever one they had, Wooden Wisdom, aka Frodo, Elijah Woods, and his partner
Hmm. It
DJing the party. Um,
was the
and I hung out
second
with
one.
that was the second, yeah.
Hmm.
And I hung out with you and Yog and Brouhaha, um, just kind of laughing at this weird thing. And um,
Enya blasting on the speakers.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, and come on Eileen, and just like it was a weird set. It was cool though. It was not what I didn't know what to expect.
Hmm.
But and it was I usually left those events Sunday morning because again, like I
Hmm.
knew people, but I remember that night after I think you gave me your phone number, which for me was like, oh, this is weird. Like I never, I never would have thought about like texting people, whatever. But then like I think in that moment I realized, you can like make real
Hmm.
friends doing this and not just the kind of oh yeah we do talk on but like these like people like I consider friends I have like all over the country who like yeah maybe I only see them once a year. I'm lucky this year I get to see them like twice, but this just like weird uh like, world we have found ourselves in.
Hmm. It's a
Yeah.
small world too, despite being a global phenomenon over the past 30 plus years. It's brought so many of us together from everywhere, which makes it worth it. And like you said, it's kind of funny. You don't really think going into this world at least it's not obvious, I feel, of, oh, I'm going to come out of this with, you know, real friends, not just internet friends, which internet friends are real too. But I know since I got back into magic, I've ended up with people I'd considered now to be lifelong friends, yourself included, that I wouldn't have met any other way. And for me, I had a gap as well in magic. I started back in last century as well. So I will date myself.
The 1900s.
Yeah, the aughts, like before the aughts. And I started around 94. So the dark was still out. Um, third edition was the main set. And it was weird. The same thing of, oh, I want to build this, but I don't have land. You had to buy the starter decks in order to get enough. I was living in Texas at the time, in South Texas, and there was maybe 3 game stores in the city, but they were the furthest away from where I lived. And so it was just trading. And back then it was, I played blue green. There wasn't a name for it. You know, we didn't have the guilds yet. And I still think back to the first time I cracked, what was it, Force of Nature, and just looking at the artwork going, whoa, this is wild. Terrible card, but
Yeah.
great looking art. And then I just made, a big deck of monsters and flyers and merfolk. Of course, after when I went off to college, I ended up stopping for a while. And let's see, I was out for 25 years. And every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, this looks interesting. I was a comic book kid also. So going to the comic shop, it'd be like, oh, they have magic and all the sets. Oh, it's still going on. This is wild. Maybe one day. And then COVID, I was living in the Keys for work. And one of my friends, Keith, owns a retro themed kind of pop culture gaming bar down there. And there was a small group of us when they closed off the Keys from a lot of tourism, and we saw the numbers kind of plummet. And so we had a small game group at Keith's condo every Sunday. And one day he goes, you used to play Magic, right? Yeah. Want to try again? And slippery slope, I went straight and I had to learn what Commander was. I had to learn what a Planeswalker was. I had to learn that Mana Burn didn't exist and the stack is a whole thing. I'm still learning, I feel, but I haven't looked back. And again, made so many friends. My first event was a Command Fest in Richmond, Virginia, right after COVID. And I want to say I'd moved back up here. So this would have been around 2021, 22, maybe. And in the lead up to that, I'd played from the Keys a couple spell table games with the Filthy MTG Casuals with Donnie and Jen. And it was same. Got on Twitter. I was already kind of lurking in the D&D side and got into the Magic side. They invited me to a game. And the fourth is that TCG guy, Corey.
Yep.
Like, talk about an introduction to just great people, but also to Magic and playing virtually from all across the country. So that con rolls around however many months later, and I end up in an Airbnb with Beth, Queen Cardboard, and Corey, and then the 3 of us, and we just become friends through the internet. Next thing you know, we're all rooming together. And from there, it just took off.
Yeah. It's it's funny how like you just meet these people and it's so natural. I think one of my biggest for me, my biggest milestone is one of the first times I went to Vegas at a con and I didn't have to ask my friend who didn't play Magic to like just to come along just so I could go. I was like, oh no, I this was like I know enough people now. I was like, I know I can go with like Magic people. Like I have enough. I've made friends to where this is not like yeah, I'm just gonna go wander around by myself for the 3 days or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm actually
Mhm.
pretty busy. Like I'm running around doing stuff and hanging out, and it's
My first day still wandering around getting my bearings,
yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
and
they keep
just
getting bigger.
taking it
It's
all
like
in.
yeah. I mean, the shows just keep getting so. Every show feels
Mhm,
like it's significantly larger than the last in a good way, in a positive way.
mhm. And even though you know the numbers and can feel it, it still feels like there could be more. We could do more. We can do bigger. And I love that. I mean, the Vegas one's easy for you. You can just hop in the car and drive too. You get
Yeah.
overwhelmed, you can just turn around, go back for the day, or if you forget something, it's like whenever I'd be traveling somewhere for work and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna forget something." It's like, you're in America, they have Target. You can just go get it. And it's like, "Oh," but now it's, "Oh, they have Magic. I can just go buy cards." Did you find getting into Commander earlier, you mentioned about, "Oh, this is hurting my wallet going through Standard and Modern." I was like, I don't know if my friend Greg has a great saying, "Don't let your credit card be your 101st in the deck."
I yeah, I just the modern. Well, I like modern, um, but a lot of the competitive decks, you fetch land. It's always the mana bases, right?
Mhm,
Um, so we were playing modern. It was kind of fun. Like I liked the variety of kind of decks that like the tier two, I guess even tier three stuff if you are conceptualize it that way. And then when my friend switched to standard, I was like, the rotate, like I liked standard, but like the rotation is like just kind of too, it was too fast. And I could see trying to keep up with standard was an investment I didn't want to make. So,
it's
uh,
time as well as cards because you have to spend time analyzing, tracking the meta, doing a lot of testing, traveling around a lot for tournaments, working with everyone. I mean, it's a great community for that too, though, thankfully, but it takes a lot.
yeah. And really for me, if I wanted to play standard, I found arena to be an easier way to like
Mhm,
get that fixed. But yeah, I liked the, I was joking, I didn't have a lot of good cards, but I had a lot of old cards. So I liked the idea of kind of like, build it really is. I think for me the biggest thing of Commander just building like decks with a
mhm.
theme, typal strategies or just kind of out of the box, commanders that make a lot of sense. Like, I think that's really what draws me to Commander. It's like, oh, like here's a I've been dinking around, the new Prismari Dragon that gives all your stuff Storm. I'm trying to figure out if there's a version that's not just like, oh, storm off one turn and have a lot of big things. Like, what can we do that's a little wonky, that's a little out there, or I keep looking at my tray of like unbuilt decks. I'm always like, oh, I have like a Yurlock Mana Burn deck I never built. I have a Galarb deck that I'm still dinking around with. So just like weird kind of ways you can kind of like,
It's always gonna be there.
yeah, it will. I guess that's the real thing is you make one, and it's really I've been having the itch to like build something new, and it's nothing. Have no commander spoken to me yet, but I'm sure something
Mhm.
will catch my eye soon enough.
Well, we've got a lot of fun new commanders coming out over the past couple years, which is a good little segue, really, because one thing you mentioned to me recently is that you just discovered Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, we did have a Universes Beyond set. Did you discover the show because of the set, or was it something that just happened organically apart from?
So I'd always known of the show, right? It's
Mhm.
pretty popular.
It's kind of out there.
Yeah, and I always had known. Plus, there was that movie that M. Night Shyamalan that was like laughably bad, I guess.
Yeah, we don't talk
Um,
about that.
no, uh, and I always known that people who were into it, like said, it's a really good. Like
Mhm,
you should watch it. And I found myself with some free time. I had to kind of take care of a dog who had a little knee surgery thing, so he had to
aw,
really kind of be monitored. He's good now, but he couldn't really walk around too much. So I was like, oh well, I'm gonna take this up to you. Let's try Avatar, Alex. Let's see what it is.
mhm,
And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
mhm,
I like I said, I'd seen the cards and I was just like, it's always interesting when there's a fandom or a
mhm,
property you're not familiar with. So
mhm,
I'm looking at all this stuff and I was just like, yeah, Soka's boomerang, or there's they did a meteor sword joke, or and I'm just like, yeah, sure, I did, I guess. Don't know these characters, don't know what water bending is or fire. What is bend, and
mhm.
but yeah, as soon as I started watching, I was like, "Oh no, this is phenomenal. This is very, it's like super. It's really funny and it's serious when it needs to be." Uh, so I blazed through that and I watched all of that, and I've been working my way through Legend of Korra now, which I just finished the first two seasons of that. So been loving that too. I know a lot of people kind of poo poo on that for whatever reason, but I've been enjoying that as well. but
It's
yeah,
been
so
on
now
my
I'm like,
list.
yeah, I've been like, oh, do I build a Avatar deck? I don't know who I'd want to build. If I want to do Avatar Aang, or I think the Soka uh, general one, the Jeskai one looks kind of
Mhm.
interesting. On my list. But you know, if if the goal of a lot of the UB outside of being a particular thing is to kind of get people into a new universe that they haven't explored before, it definitely worked for me in Avatar. So hats off to Wizards there.
It's funny because we all see that it's a great way to bring people into magic because it creates a space for the familiar imprinted on something that's new. But it's rarer almost hearing the stories of people who've gone the other direction. I think for me, when the Warhammer set came out, I'd been familiar with Warhammer back in, again, the 90s. I played Necromunda, which was more of a small team skirmishing game from the same company. And I thought, you know what? This is kind of fascinating. And next thing you know, I'm doing a deep dive. I've read stacks of the novels, which are extremely good if you have a thing for sci-fi, and even started painting minis. I don't really play much, but it's relaxing as all get out as like a nice little break. And Marvel recently got me back into sort of reading comics again and seeing what's going on and seeing all these amazing new artists and writers just telling brand new stories with these characters I grew up with. Um, Doctor Who, I think, was a great jumpstart for a lot of people in both directions. Those decks I remember were selling out pretty quickly, even for something extremely complicated, because those decks were definitely not terribly beginner friendly, but once you got the gist of them, those were fun.
Yeah, the I have the 10th Doctor Jeskai time counters, but that deck is talk about cognitive load,
Mhm.
like tracking. Sometimes you add counters, sometimes you remove counters, and it's
It's
not.
timey-wimey.
Yeah, it's timey wimey. It's wibbly wobbly. It goes ding with their stuff. Um, yeah, it's just I've played just the precon a few times. I like playing it,
Mhm.
but it's just like I'm like, okay, I have to be, can't be too tired. I got to be, have to have my fed, yeah, hydrated, because otherwise I'm just like, I don't know what's going on right now.
I need to be caffeinated, ready to
Yes,
go,
yes,
on the
exactly.
clock. I keep a full set together just to play them against each other because it gets a nice, fun little thematic battle going. Same with
Yeah.
the Warhammer decks, and I did the same for the Fallout ones.
Oh, nice.
Were there any of the UBs that you feel didn't really hit the mark for one way or the other, either for helping bring people in or maybe just translating well?
I haven't really had too many issues with the UB stuff. It felt like Spider-Man was a little just mishandled. A lot of people might talk about Assassin's Creed, but Assassin's Creed is one of those sets. Like you start poking around in there, you're like, oh, what is this card? What is this card? Like there's there's a lot of cool stuff in that set. Uh,
Assassin's Creed was an interesting outlier because it fell into the aftermath trappings of everyone saw it as, oh, these half packs are nothing. But then after people started cracking into aftermath, they're like, wait, there's some good stuff in here. Um, what's the potential maybe for? I know we're never going to see those smaller packs again after sort of the outcry, but
Hopefully,
it's the equivalent of, I'd say, a loot drop in a game. Like, what if you had a more curated version of those?
yeah. So yeah, the only real UB I think that's really kind of just been like whatever. I think has been Spider-Man, which
Mhm.
is unfortunate because
You
I
and I
think
are
there's
both
just a,
huge Spider-Man fans too.
yeah, and I don't know. I think I saw someone post about it, I can't remember who it was, but it didn't really bring a particularly uh, well received, I guess, mechanic or the play style maybe. He had web slinging, which was kind of
Mhm,
interesting. And there was, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like it's the Green Goblin. It's like kind of like Madness,
mhm.
but I think different timing restrictions. But a lot of it felt like plus one counters here. I don't know.
Mhm.
It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't seem to click in a way that a lot of like something like Final Fantasy or the Lord of the Rings have. There was, and I don't know if that's just because they're now required to put out so much stuff, or the marvel of it all has kind of put them in a weird corner. They got to,
Mhm.
there's probably a lot more um, rules or requirements they have to kind of get that stuff out. So, uh, which is a bummer. Like I
Mhm.
think I I try not to think about people like, well, I want original Magic characters and this or that. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I like the original Magic
Mhm.
story; it's great. But like, I just try to think about it, it's like, well, what's the difference of you know Cloud, card named Cloud versus if it was Gerard from the Weather Light with the same abilities,
Mhm.
right? So it's not, again, like I think when they nail it, I think that's really the power of like UB is like, oh no, like
Mhm.
like the Doctor Who stuff, like they really nailed like the Doctor Who-ness of.
Absolutely.
I think Final Fantasy they really nailed like
Mhm.
and I think that's really the power of bringing in these outside properties. Uh,
I'd say the ones you mentioned, the Doctor Who, the Final Fantasy set, and Warhammer are great examples of how they were able to bring in a massive universe, not hit all the marks, not bring in every reference, but still stick the landing. Because
yeah, that,
Final Fantasy, we were missing out on characters, but everyone still found something.
yeah, I think that's the unfortunate like double-edged sword of UB
Mhm.
is if they get it right, people are like all about it, but if they don't, the pitchforks are gonna come out. So um and the game just kind of this direction has it's the direction it's going, and as long as the play patterns are fun and the cards are interesting, I guess it's all really that matters in a lot of ways.
Yeah, does the deck or the card spark joy when you play it or draw it or sleeve it up? Then it's a win. It's one of those. A friend of mine always says, "You do you." Like, if you're happy with your deck in a pod, it's all that matters.
Definitely.
A- And then I know you're a huge Tolkien fan. What are your thoughts on The Hobbit?
I cannot wait. I'm pretty sure I don't buy boxes too often anymore because I don't really draft and I don't even buy singles is the correct way to whatever. But I come from an era of buying booster
Mhm.
boxes and Kraken packs to have like a foundational set of cards.
Mhm.
If I bought two for Lord of the Rings. I'll probably buy at least one or maybe one, if not two, for the Hobbit. I'm stoked. Like ready for the Dwarven Company. I already have two Gandalf decks. I'm probably go for a third or a fourth,
Why not?
yeah. So, I mean, it seemed inevitable with how good I mean, at the time, right,
Mhm.
it was their best selling set of all time.
Mhm.
So, I know for a lot of people, it's the sting is a little sting, no pun intended.
Pun
Um,
intended.
yeah, pun intended. Always. The fantasy element. I mean, obviously, most fantasy is all built off Tolkien's back anyway. So,
Mhm.
it feels like it slides in a little easier than some other properties. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for most of the remaining sets for the year. To be perfectly honest, so um, oddly enough, I'm very excited for Star Trek. Um,
Same. I won't
yeah,
lie. And
yeah,
especially after Edge of Eternities, which was
yeah,
a great setup and test bed for what we're clearly going to see in that set.
yeah.
And
I
I'm ready for it.
yeah. I'm probably always gonna be a Star Wars guy first, but
Mhm.
I still like Star Trek a lot. Like I've always been a big fan.
What was your favorite show? Like coming up as a kid?
I was always a TNG guy, Next
Mhm.
Generation. I kind of that was because that started like in the '80s, right, and
Mhm.
then the '90s. So that kind of I can remember like watching watching live the season finale where
Mhm.
Riker's at the screen. It says fire, and then it cuts. And I can remember making sure I was home to watch this series finale.
Mhm.
Oh, it's gonna kill my camera. It's Best of Both Worlds. What was it called? I used to know the name of it off the top of my head all the time, but whatever it's like a time travel one or something
Mhm.
like that.
The one where Picard's kind of bouncing around.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a good name for an episode too. It's gonna kind of bug
The
me.
one where Picard's bouncing around sounds like an
Well, we're going
episode
back
of It's
around.
Always Sunny.
Yeah. um, but yeah. So that was always. I was always a big Geordie LaForge fan. You know,
Same.
he was my favorite. But
Not just because of
yeah,
Reading Rainbow either,
no, but part of
but
it. I mean,
maybe a
I liked
little.
yeah, but I don't know. I think I liked his visor. I thought his visor was cool, and he was kind of a. I mean, he was like the engineer. He was kind of
Mhm.
nerdy already. Um,
Which is our kind of people.
yeah, yeah. I actually, gosh, here's a recovery memory. I can remember there was a new episode where Picard and Data were coming back to the Enterprise, and it was like in a life support like free spin. They had to match. They had to match like the spin of the Enterprise, and like there was like it was like life support, and there was some weird like DNA thing going through, where like there was like they were turning people into like half spider, half humans, or half like yeah, it was like this weird like thing, and they had to like navigate the ship and like formulate the cure and like the little medical device. But I remember that watching that new, and it was like, oh, this is like like a spooky episode, and I remember being like scared, like, oh, and so I think Worf was like a half Klingon, half spider hybrid. I don't know. It was like I remember being like really like
I have to go
scared.
look this up. I do not remember this one.
Yeah, I remember that being a spooky one. But like just watching stuff new like live for the first time, that was weird to think
Seeing
about. But
everything just back then.
yeah,
The having
yeah,
to wait a whole week, getting a commercial break to go run out. I mean, everything we watched back then also had a card game. There was the old Star Trek card game, the Star Wars one you mentioned, the original Lord of the Rings Hobbit game in the early
yep,
2000s.
yep.
That you brought a couple of those cards to the Wooden Wisdom show.
Yeah, so, the company Decipher, who made the Star Wars CCG, they made a Lord of the Rings version, and their whole thing was they worked with, uh they did everything like stills from the movies as opposed to like art. It actually was really cool for Lord of the Rings. They worked with the New Zealand, I can't remember the name of them now, but the props company a lot, so they had access to a
Weta?
lot of stuff. Weta, yeah, exactly, Weta. Um, so I always thought it was cool, like pulling movies. So the Frodo card was actually, Elijah Wood. So I was like, oh,
Hmm.
maybe I can get him to sign it if, if it's actually him versus like the Frodo from the, the art version. But
Hmm.
fortunately, there was not a chance. So I think actually they were all just, I think the four Hobbits were just down the street from me at the Anaheim Convention Center this past week. I didn't realize till after the fact, but
You'll get a chance at some point. I think we got
yeah.
a photo of you holding it up with Elijah in the distance on stage.
Yes, yes. I think Bruja was like embarrassed. It's like, what are you doing? Um, Also, the name of that episode, "All Good Things," is the last episode of The Next Generation because it's all good things must come to an end.
Hmm.
That's I was like, "Oh, that's a good name," but yeah, that was. I remember again, like this is
It was
the
iconic.
series. Yeah, Um, so, anyways, that was gonna drive me crazy until I could
I mean, it's
remember
not
it.
like we're connected to the internet or something where we could search on it, but
I
where's the
cheated.
fun in that?
I went to IMDb. I was gonna go crazy if I could get to it, but
I
yeah,
was going to say I'd fix it in post, but honestly, I'm not that talented, so we
and
won't. I want to go back to your comment on Geordie LaForge and read something to you.
yeah,
Might sound a little familiar. To go twice as high, take a look. It's in a book, A Reading Rainbow. Your haiku for Prismatic Bridge. Anyone who is not familiar with Drew runs an amazing account on Instagram called Show and Tell Haiku, where he does haikus for magic cards. And here's a fun little statistic. You've done 276 posts, 276 haikus. That's 4,692 syllables.
a lot of syllables. Actually, maybe not. I guess with the haikus are short, so it's not, but a lot of haikus.
A lot of haikus, a lot of 575s, and you have run the gamut. I mean, there are some classics like words that bring sorrow, constant echoes of despair. Do you pay the one? If we want to be topical, all the way up to most recently, justice may be blind, but the force of its servant is not forgotten. What inspired you to go down this route? How'd it begin?
So I've always liked haikus just in general. I think they're an interesting way to do poetry. I'm a big fan of uh, Jack Kerouac, and he writes
Mhm.
a lot. He used to write a lot of haikus. That was kind of inspiration. And I started. So most of them start on TikTok. That's all I use TikTok for. This is me being, I don't know if it's contrarian or just in my head thinking I'm clever, but TikTok a lot of time is like people doing skits and dances
Mhm.
and this or that. And I was like, I am just gonna do haikus about magic cards. Like that is it. Uh,
Here is a card. Here's a haiku. Here is a voice.
exactly. I was like, that's all it's gonna be. I'm not coordinated enough to do, dances or this or that. So I'm like, haha, that's funny. Like it's gonna be whatever. Um,
And
and
look at you
then
now.
and look at me now. But it was real. I also think it was just I was looking at heuristic study, or everyone talks about, do you pay the one? I was just like, do you pay the one? It's like, oh, that's 5 syllables. Like, there's probably a haiku in there, right? Because I'm pretty sure heuristic study was my first haiku.
I
Um,
think it was.
yeah.
It was
So that
either Ristic Study or Soul Ring.
probably one of those would be fitting. But I think when I realized that was a 5 syllable kind of phrase, that kind of like clicked something in my head, and then then it's been kind of from then on, it kind of became a exercise in just writing something consistently. I try to do. Gosh, I look for a while. I was doing like 2 or 3 a week. I'm like, holy cow, that's how was I keep it up?
There are plenty
Um,
of cards to work with.
yeah, and it's gotten down to 1 a week now. Probably pick that up again. Um, but for a while, it was cards from I liked or kind of popular cards from history. But it's funny, as the sets release kind of quicker and quicker now. It's actually easier to find newer cards to kind of fill in gaps because we're kind of getting a lot. If set comes out, like, oh, there's 20 cards probably I can write haikus about. By the time I get to that, oh, here's another set I can write 20. So um, it's been an interesting uh,
Got to start with
exercise.
previews and just go.
Yeah, pretty much. So I try to make sure I have a few rules. I try to make sure, like, if someone if it's like a preview card, like a creators like put it out, I try to wait so like people can see their preview before I just throw it up on TikTok, because it's, two different worlds a lot of time between the social media. So I'm trying to give those a few days. Um, I joke that I live in the Kerouac rules of haikus, where I try to do 575, but sometimes if the spirit of the haiku is there, I might cheat a little bit. Um,
Five,
and my
seven and a half.
yeah, sometimes I add a little bit, like, if you say it fast enough, it's 1 syllable instead of two. Um,
The
my
M&M
favorite,
method.
yeah, my favorite little thing is I used to record my face when I did it,
Mhm.
and I would write with a quill. I think I still
Mhm.
have,
It'd
because it's
be
like
you superimposed over it in the corner.
yeah, still have the quill.
Oh,
Um, and when we started getting a bunch of new cards, people would be like, "Your head is in the way of the card. Move your head." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I stopped just recording my face because I was just getting in the way. Um, and I really only recorded my face because I think someone once said that the algorithm likes it better if there's someone faces was in it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll put my head in as like, and I would pretend to, be pretending to write. And sometimes I would do like silly stuff with like whatever, but once people kind
you'd
of
be deep in
wanted.
thought with the quill.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, well, people want to read the card more than see my head. So I just kind of like, it's easy enough. It makes it even faster. So, but it's been fun. I've like dabbling with it, and again, I like dedication to the bit. That my TikTok is just haikus. I've done a few not soliloquies. Brain is like you've edited them
Brain
for
is
you.
inbraining.
Yeah,
You've done sonnets.
sonnets. There we go. Yeah, I'd say it's late, but I'm 3 hours behind you, so I have no reason to to complain. Uh,
For
I've done a
those
few.
listening, it's 10:30 p.m. on like a weeknight. So it's a school night for both of us.
Yeah, it's only 7:30 for me, so I have. Um, But yeah, dabble with sonnets. I think sonnets are pretty fun as
Mhm,
well. But yeah, the haiku is just one of those things where it's just like an easy kind of, you can kind of knock it out. And you know, I think it's an exercise in written restraint because there's not enough words to overthink it a lot of times.
mhm.
Um, so I think
There's
being
an
able to kind of,
elegance.
yes, exactly. So, there's some I have like, oh yeah, I write them like, oh, like really proud of them. I really like that I think the Daredevil one you wrote. The Prismatic Bridge. One of my favorites is right after they banned Golos. I wrote one about Golos, which I thought was pretty
Y
cool.
That's a great
Um,
one.
yeah, but not all of them are bangers. I will admit, sometimes
Some
I'm
of
just
them are
like,
pretty good, though.
yeah, but it's fun.
It's a good
But
outlet. It's something that's quick, it's unique,
yeah,
and
so
it's a fun challenge.
yeah,
Writing's another hobby of mine, and trying to study the concepts of economy of word, it makes you a better writer, and I think once you get to the point of doing haikus where you really have to make everything count, it's another level, and you're
yeah,
nailing it. Everyone
thank
should
you.
go follow that account and go scroll back through the archive because there are some great little moments, and you never know. One of those haikus might inspire a new deck you might never thought you want to build. You've always taken an interesting route too with sort of showcasing content, showcasing other members of the community. You have a wonderful series called Dear Magic, and you also created the disposable memories kind of program where you were taking and handing out disposable cameras to other creators to just shoot whatever you see at the major Magicons. Dear Magic, for those who aren't familiar, Drew asked a lot of friends and creators to write a letter to Magic and why it matters to them. And you've done two of those, I believe, so far, three now.
Two. I did one at Shoebox,
Mhm.
and I've done a second one at this past MagicCon Vegas. So two of them.
And then lastly, one that I really enjoyed because you asked me to help you out a little bit was looking at the gathering as gallery with your classic series.
Yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about how that piece came about? Because it dives into not just your love of art, community, but also your passion as a photographer.
Yeah, the classics was one of those projects that I kind of just stumbled upon. Um, I think it had really come about because my wife and I had gone to France, and we got to go to the Louvre and the d'Orsay. It was anytime I tell people if you're going to France, Paris, the Musée d'Orsay is like the best uh, museum to check out. It's so wonderful, and I love going to art museums because you always get so inspired, right? Because you're surrounded by like the masters. Um, and I I'm always looking for interesting ways to combine like magic and photography. Uh, I like doing cosplay photography, but like the photo projects have for me filled a artistic hole in terms of like giving me an outlet to kind of pursue photography in a way that it's kind of all over the place before. So being able to use magic as a kind of foundation for my photography has been really nice. And I was looking at there's obviously a very famous painting, the girl with the pearl earring, and I was just kind of looking at it, and I was thinking about pearl earring, and then I thought about Mox Pearl, and then uh, there's a creator, Phyrexian Hannah. She makes little magic card earrings, and I just kind of had this like moment of like, oh, I wonder if she could make like a Mox Pearl earring for me. And I luckily was in, there was a small event in Los Angeles, the Laughing Dragon event. And I went up there and I hadn't met her before. And I just kind of was like, hey, like I had this idea. And I had Didn't use a real Mux Pro, obviously. But I had like a Mux Pro proxy made, and I was like, I kind of introduced myself and was just like, yeah, is this something you would be interested in helping out with? Like, yeah, I can pay you, whatever. And she, was amazing. And she was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, here, she gave me the car. I gave her the card. She says, no, I'll take care of it. Like, well, I'll have this for you. No problem. And so then I started thinking about like other works that would be interesting to kind of convey. And, um, you know, uh, Zebex, who is a cosplayer, she's also a dancer. She's been a dancer her whole life. Um, I'm a big fan of Degas. He does a lot of work of ballerinas. That's kind of what he was known for. So I was like, well, definitely, there's got to be something there for that. So she had her uh, jester costume that Vegas based out of the jester cap card,
Hmm.
and I was just like, can you do like a pose? And she's like, yeah, of course, not a problem. So I was like, "Hey, this is really cool. And then, Veggie Vegigan had a Ragavan, and just the idea of Ragavan as a thinker
Hmm.
was just like too good to pass up. And then I had Brouhaha and her partner Gozer do. I always forget the full name. It's like self portrait with death or
Hmm.
something like that. But it's basically someone painting, I believe, and death is standing behind them. And
Hmm.
uh,
That was a great piece of them.
yeah, and it worked out so well because Ruha had a Tiny Bones cosplay, which was like a skull, so like
Hmm.
the imagery was there.
Oh, I love their tiny bones.
Yeah,
It's so much fun. You
yeah.
got to watch out though, because when they're dressed as tiny bones, they will steal things from you.
Yes, yes, they
They will
will.
give them back, but it's a sign of friendship.
Yes. Um, and then Hobbs Q likes to run around in his Goblin King, Goblin Noble outfit. Um, and I just couldn't help but see the statue of David as as a goblin. So we got to do this really cool one, and it was funny because that whole project was like initially going to be. I had brought a backdrop and like stands and lights, and I was trying to figure out like, oh, it was going to be very like studio esque, and I was trying to figure out somewhere. I got somewhere outside I was gonna set up, and I'm like, "Oh, this is so much work." And then I was like, "No, like it needs to be in the context of like the convention and like having them, I think just in the middle of the tables and people walking by, I think added a lot more drama to it." And um I was like thrilled with how all that came out. Oh, and the girl with the mock pro earring, Anna Margaret, uh, wonderful, just wonderful human being in general, like brilliant, like super nice, super talented, just amazing that anytime I get to see her work with her is awesome. And just uh was thrilled with like just that kind of project, and just something that's a little different, a little magical, I guess, but and your intro for it was phenomenal. So
It was
it's
fun
just
to write.
I'm
You inspired me, and everyone's portrayals in that made it easy and made it a joy. And I can't wait for you to do another one of those at some point.
yeah, it's one of the as a photographer, anytime I can capture something that evokes a feeling within me, uh, it's rare because I think like most people, if you're a writer or any sort of artist, like you're your own worst critic, right?
Hmm.
But that was one of those things where everything kind of came together. I was like, oh no, this is pretty cool. Like this is
Yeah.
pretty nice. So
It was
um,
new, hadn't been done, and honestly, nothing since.
thank you. It means a lot. But yeah, that was a good project. I was
I'm excited to see what you bring next, especially at the next show. Now, as we're wrapping up, I want to run you through the Flavor Profiles interview. So, you and I are of an age where we remember Inside the Actor Studio, right?
yes.
And the Proust interviews. This is kind of a modification of that for Magic. So, 10 quick questions, nothing too wild, just first thing comes off top of your head. So, what card brings you happiness?
What card brings me happiness? You know, gosh, I like uh consider
Hmm.
1 mana, surveil one, draw a
Hmm.
card. I just, that's just a fun little card. It's efficient.
Elegant,
You
simple,
know, yeah, that's that kind of stuff. Efficient, I like efficient, low costed cards. That kind of stuff brings me happiness, brings me joy.
especially in this economy.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So, on the flip side, what card brings you misery?
Oh gosh.
Besides too many.
We- uh, I thought about a brawl. I think the a Johnny, the modern Horizon 3 a Johnny.
Someone who plays that in
It's
Brawl.
is is
Apologies.
is brutal. It's 2 mana. It gets going so much. You need like 5 removal spells just to kind of get to the mid game. Um,
Yeah, that
that's
sounds about
one.
right.
Yeah, yeah. That one. Yeah, I don't like.
What plane would you like to live on?
That's an interesting question. What plane? I guess I'm pretty low key, so maybe not replica. Replica's kind of scary. Um,
They all kind of are.
yeah. I guess if I went to Bloomberg, I'd be turned into an animal. Um, yeah. No, Segovia's got just tiny, the big things. Um, okay, I'm gonna do the plane of New York. I'm gonna cheat because we now live in a world where
That
the
was my answer if I had to come up with one just for the gag. Yeah,
yeah,
plane of New York.
there's a
Just
cube to I think someone's probably built it or building it, but a New York cube between the Marvel and the Turtle stuff. Probably a lot there.
hey, nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah,
all the stuff we grew up on. What's your favorite slice of the color pie?
black. I think it's always been black. I like the utility it gives you, for the cost. I like white a lot, but I think black is probably my favorite color I can play. Uh, Interesting creatures, they usually have uh big baddies that can do, cost a bunch of mana, do some crazy stuff, but they also have some pretty efficient um smaller dudes as well. And just usually if it needs to be done, like, you can do it in black and it might cost you some life or something, but I think it's my favorite color to play.
Okay, now a question that's going to maybe force us to reconsider friendship. When we're thinking about the color wheel, is it a pie or is it a cake?
So here's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a cheesecake guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I think technically cheesecake's a pie. So I'm already confused about cakes and pies. So
I
whatever,
did not foresee that as ever being an answer, but now
so
I'm
it's
just hungry.
yeah, it's
And you
whatever
know,
a
I
cheese.
like to bake, and I'm going to have to make a pie, a cake, and a cheesecake just to validate this.
Yeah,
So,
so whatever called the color cheesecake. That's gonna be my answer.
well, I think if we're going to go with your favorite slice being mono black,